everybody, it's Mrs. Slauson. So because most of you do have your PSAT test and a few SATers in there, we won't make this week too stressful, but with that in mind, hopefully you got my text message, and I really need for you to do what I'm asking you to do this week before I see you in class. So I'm in your packet, and we are going to finish our section in 2.1. We left a section out evaluating these quadratic functions, and we're going to wrap up 2.3 with solving. And you will need your graphing calculator, so you're going to want to find that. And I have mine too. So I don't know if this video is going to be in one part or two parts. I guess we'll just see. So we are actually going to start on page 5 in our video notes, and this is something that we've done. So again, what I've talked about with you is that over Thanksgiving break, you're going to have the option to fix and make corrections to your Chapter 1 test. And part of that Chapter 1 test was evaluating functions. So we're just going to go over that and make sure we know how to do that. And since our functions are a little different, and throwing some, challenges in there. So we're going to go through page 5 right now. So I'm going to do a little explaining of how I explain this to my freshmen if you are struggling with this. So we have our function f of x. It's 2x squared plus 3. Again, what we just learned is that 2, that would mean that if I were solving this, that I would have 2 answers. But instead, what we're going to be doing is evaluating. So I like to draw the wall. And what I tell my students is, we have -1 here. And I tell them it's either going to go on the left or it's going to go on the right side. And so I had a coworker who used to call parentheses hugs. And she would say, -1 needs a hug. So when I'm trying to decide where should -1 go, it can go on the left side. And don't write this down. And it would be alone. And it needs a hug, so it doesn't want to be alone. So that means when I have to choose where I put -1, it's going to go on the right side with all the numbers. And then when you just have a bunch of numbers, it's just PEMDAS, which is what most of these problems will be. So parentheses, the -1 is just in there. There's nothing to do. Then I'll do the exponent. So -1 squared is 1. And then I'll bring everything down. After exponents, I look for multiplication division. And then when I'm done, I get 5. So our goal is to also write the answer the correct way. So my function, if x is worth -1, gives me an answer of 5. So this is what I prefer to have your answers written. So on this one, we're going to put in the square root of 7. So we're starting to step this up. So again, if I have my problem and square root of 7 is in parentheses and it wants a hug, I'll be putting it in the right side with all the numbers. So f of x is going to equal 2, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put the square root of 7, and I'm going to square it, and then I'm going to add 3. And again, I'm just going to follow PEMDAS. So the first thing is just the square root, nothing to do with the square root of 7. My exponent says I should square it, and when you square something that is square rooted, technically what happens is the square and the square root cancel out. The long thing that's happening is you have the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, which is the square root of 49, which just becomes 7. So if you can just realize that the square root and the square cancel each other out, that will speed that up. After that, I'll do my multiplying because that's next. And then I'll add, and I get 17. And the way we're going to write our answer is my function, when x is the square root of 7, gives me an answer of 17. All right, next one. This time we could have put 2x in there. Again, it's in parentheses. It wants to go where all the other numbers are. So 2x will go in parentheses, and I square it, plus 3. So again, same things happening. Parentheses, nothing to do there. But this means I'll square 2x. And that means I want to take 2x times 2x. And when I do that, I get 4, and I get x squared. So now I'll bring down this other 2 and the plus 3, and I'm going to continue with what I've been doing. I'm going to multiply this first, get 8x squared, and then before I could add, but since these aren't like terms, I will just leave it like this. This is the final answer. So my function when x is worth 2x, I get an answer of 8x squared plus 3. In this one, I'll be putting x plus 1 in, same spot. And again, in parentheses, I can't do anything with x plus 1. They are not like terms. So from there, what I'm going to do is realize that x plus 1 squared means that there are 2 of these. I'll go ahead and bring down the 2 and the 7. And this is what we've been practicing before. This is technically vertex form, and I do want to simplify this up. I want to clean it up. So I'm going to have my 3 neighbors meet, and I do like to always start with the parentheses. So I'm going to get x squared and 1x. And then I'm going to get another 1x and 1. So when I'm done, I get x squared plus 2x plus 1. I'll bring the 2 down because it still needs to meet the neighbors, this group. I'll bring down the plus 7 because I don't want to forget about it. And now 2 is going to meet everyone, and I get 2x squared plus 4x from here plus 2. And then I still have my plus 7. And when I do simplify and keep combining my terms, that's going to turn into 9. So the way I want to write my final answer is my function, when x is x plus 1, gives me 2x squared plus 4x plus 9. All right, next function we're going to work with is g of x. So g of x is x cubed minus x. And again, when I'm setting this up, and I'm trying to decide where the negative 2 goes, it wants to go where everything else is. If I put it over here, it's alone. But since it's in parentheses, it wants a hug, it's going to go over here. So it's going to be negative 2 cubed, and then I'll take away, and I'll put that negative 2 in parentheses so we don't get confused between the subtraction and the negative. So again, negative 2 cubed means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So this much gives me 4. 4 with negative 2, I get negative 8 from this. And then when I subtract negative 2, that's like me adding 2. So when I'm done, I'll get negative 6. And so my function, g, when x is negative 2, gives me an answer of negative 6. And this one I'll be putting in 1. And again, it's going to go in the same spot on the right. So it'll be 1 cubed minus 1. Again, wherever there's an x, I'll be putting that 1. 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1, that's 1. Take away 1, that gives me 0. So my function, g, when x is 1, gives me an answer of 0. All right, let's move to our challenging ones. This time we're going to have 2a in there. So again, it's going to go on the right side like it has been. So this time it's going to be 2a that's cubed, and then I'll subtract 2a. And again, 2a cubed means 2a times 2a times 2a. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. A times a times a is a cubed. And maybe you remember from algebra and even middle school that there's an exponent rule that says if there's multiplication in your parentheses, you can actually distribute this exponent and make it 2 cubed, which is a, and a cubed, which I wrote down. And then I'll bring down the 2a. And then I would like to subtract these, but since these aren't like terms, I will stop. So my answer, my function, g, when x is worth 2a, gives me an answer of 8a cubed minus 2a. And the last one, so g of x, on the right side, I'll put in negative 3t cubed, so negative 3t squared, sorry, I said cubed, and then I'm going to take all of that cubed, because remember it was x cubed, and now this is being cubed minus, in parentheses, negative 3t squared. So again, this cubed does mean the long way that I'll have 3 of these, which means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, that's negative 27, or I could use that shortcut and just